With a mission to deliver fiscally responsible, highly dependable services to the citizens of our community and the region with integrity and professionalism, this is the City of Albany Commission Meeting with Mayor Bo Duro, Mayor Pro Tem Jon Howard, Ward 1, Matt Fuller, Ward 2, BJ Fletcher, Ward 3, Chad Warbington, Ward 4, Bob Langstaff Jr., Ward 5, Demetrius Young, Ward 6, City Manager Sharon Subadam, City Clerk Sonia Talbot, and City Attorney Nathan Davis. This is the City of Albany Commission Meeting.
Good evening. Welcome to the September 2020 regular meeting of the Albany City Commission. The first item on the agenda, we have an invocation. Is Reverend Brown with us? Reverend Brown? Do I see Reverend Brown on the line, or is that Reverend Brown under mistakes? It is. Reverend Brown, I think you're on mute.
Reverend Brown, this is Stephen Burke. We're unable to hear you at this time. We have some audio issues.
We'll take a 2-minute recess and see if we can get Reverend Brown on the line, if that's okay. That's what I was saying. Let's take a roll call while we're waiting.
Ward 1. Ward 2.
Here.
Ward 3.
Here.
Ward 4.
Here.
Ward 5.
Here.
Ward 6.
Here.
Mayor.
Here. Do we have Reverend Brown on the line? Can we take a 2-minute recess? Would that be agreeable? Mayor Pro Tem? Commissioner Fuller?
Yes, that's fine.
Commissioner Fletcher?
Yes.
Commissioner Warmington?
Yes.
Commissioner Langstaff?
Yes.
And Commissioner Young?
Yes.
Okay, we'll be in recess for 2 minutes to see if we can get Reverend Brown on the line.
We got a number?
Yeah, he just went off.
Okay, the number.
He just disconnected.
Call back in.
We apologize to Reverend Brown. Commissioner Warmington has agreed to get the application back.
Let's pray. Lord, we thank you for tonight. God, thank you for an opportunity for us to gather and to talk about our city business. Lord, we pray for Reverend Brown. Thank you for his willingness to come and lead us in prayer. I pray you would bless him and just help him even in his church and where he serves. And thank you for him. Lord, tonight as we talk, God, may you give us wisdom. May you give us love for each other, passion for each other, a willingness to listen before we talk. God, just a sensitivity of knowing that, God, we're leaders of our city. And God, we pray for those, even in the middle of our pandemic, God, that are still suffering with this illness and this disease. God, just continue to guide us, guide our medical community, God, guide our state and federal leaders as we continue to work through this coronavirus pandemic. God, again, thank you for our city. God, we ask for your blessings on it. God, to bless the citizens. God, to bless our churches. God, all those who serve and give of themselves on a regular basis. God, again, we love you and thank you in Jesus' name. Amen.
Reverend Pro Tem, would you lead us in the pledge? The first item is approval of the minutes. Are there any corrections, errors, or omissions in the minutes? If not, Chair would entertain a motion to approve the minutes.
I move that the minutes be approved as printed.
Is there a second? Any discussion? Mayor Pro Tem.
No discussion.
Commissioner Fuller.
No discussion.
Commissioner Fletcher.
No discussion.
Commissioner Warmington.
Nothing.
Commissioner Langstaff.
No discussion.
Commissioner Young.
No discussion.
With that, we'll call the roll.
Ward 1.
Here.
Nope. On the minutes.
Ward 2.
Yes.
Ward 3.
Yes.
Ward 4.
Yes.
Ward 5.
Yes.
Ward 6.
Yes.
Mayor.
Yes. The next item on the agenda is a public hearing regarding a proposal to close a section of Highland Avenue Alley. Do we have anybody signed up to speak on this item? Okay, I see this is on the agenda for later this evening. So there being no one to speak on the item, I assume we move forward with the agenda. Is that correct, Ms. Hicks? Okay.
Mayor,
And the commissioner, yes, ma'am.
you need to open and close the public hearing.
Okay,
You got to close it, please.
okay. We have advertised the public hearing, and the public hearing is now open. Mr. Hicks, has anybody signed up to speak at the public hearing? Okay.
Mayor, can I suggest maybe the engineering director would want to just state into the record the necessity to close the alley in regards to the Albany Transportation Center project?
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Davis. Mr. Maples?
Yeah, good evening, Mayor and Commissioners. How you doing this evening?
Fine, thanks.
This project was brought to you last month at the August 25th meeting. We requested that it be advertised. It's been duly advertised. The project is for the Albany Transportation Center. It's to request to close a portion of the Highland Avenue Alley, 263 feet, basically west of the West Jackson Street right-of-way. It's for the construction. It'll be for the closure of the alley for the construction of the Albany Transportation Center. And we'll entertain any questions or any comments anybody has.
Thank you, Mr. Maples. Any questions, Mayor Pro Tem, for Mr. Maples or anyone else?
I have no question. I have no question.
Commissioner Fuller?
No questions.
Commissioner Fletcher?
No questions.
Commissioner Warmington?
No questions.
Commissioner Langstaff?
No questions.
Commissioner Young?
No questions.
And Ms. Subadan, is there anything else that needs to be presented during the public hearing?
Nothing else, sir.
Okay, with that, the hearing is closed. Is that correct, Mr. Davis? Okay. Next, we have three alcohol license applications. The first is E&L Sports Bar for a license at 1009 Clark Avenue. Is Mr. Norman on the phone?
Good evening, Mayor.
Good evening, Mr.
Norman. It's Mr. Donaldson.
Oh, good. How you doing, Mr. Donaldson?
All right, sir.
You have the floor. Can you give us some background?
Excuse me, sir.
You have the floor. Can you give us some background?
Yes, sir. The first application is E&L Sports Bar at 1009 Clark Avenue. I submitted applications requesting an alcohol license for liquor and beer. The applicant is Letitia Adams, 812 West Whitney Avenue, Albany, Georgia. She's going to manage the location. It's a sports bar. The planning department identified the location zone in C2 on a collective street and is in Ward 2. This requirements must be greater than 200 yards from school and 100 yards from churches. The closest school is Robert Harvey Elementary, 1305 2nd Avenue. and it's more than 3,900 feet from the location. The church is Holy Victor Deliverance Temple at 1021 Clark Avenue and is approximately 469 feet from the location. This location has been vacant since 2018. The business previous at this location was Triple Diamond from 2008 to 2014. It was Triple Diamond 2 in 2016 and Fat Dad's in 2017. This location is on the north side of Clark Avenue. Traveling west, there are no structures in that block. Traveling east, there is a vacant lot, and then a duplex at the corner of Simmons Street. Across the street south is Fleet Masters, and west of the location are 2 residential structures on vacant and others occupied. The police department has no open investigation on this location. The applicant placed an article in the Albany Herald 10 days before this meeting as a notification to the general public that this application will be considered for approval. This application meets the criteria for approval.
Thank you, Ms. Dawson. Any questions, Mayor Pro Tem?
No question.
Commissioner Fuller?
No questions.
Commissioner Fletcher?
No questions.
Commissioner Warburton?
No questions.
Commissioner Langstaff?
No questions.
Commissioner Young?
Could you reiterate again, sir, the proximity to residential homes?
Excuse me, sir, I didn't hear you.
Can you reiterate again the proximity of this establishment to residential homes?
I have the proximity for the churches and the school, but for the actual residents, that's what you're asking?
Yes.
No, sir, I don't have the proximity from the actual residents.
Okay. I think in the previous work session that it was mentioned, or at least by my eyesight, there are residential homes within probably less than a quarter mile to the east of this establishment, and then down or going back north of this establishment as well. Mr. Norman, I think, stated that in his last report.
And so across the street, the south side is Fleet Master, and west of the location are 2 residential structures. One vacant and others occupied. Yes, sir.
Okay, that's what I wanted to get on the record.
Yes, sir.
Chair will entertain a motion to approve the application. Does any member wish to make a motion to approve the application? Mr. Davis, there being no motion, do we approve, move to the next item?
Yes, sir. And then if there's not going to be an approval, if there's going to be a proposed denial, your city code requires before there can be a vote on a denial, there has to be a hearing where the applicant is present.
If we voted on it tonight and denied it, I mean, what position does that put the applicant in if we don't vote on it?
Well, it would just move, just stay on the agenda until something happens with it. It has to either be a proper denial hearing. And again, the first word in the code section is before there can be a denial. There has to be a hearing where the applicant is present and allowed to speak.
Okay.
Thank you.
So we go to the next item then.
Yes, sir.
Agenda for the next meeting then. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you, Ms. Dawson. The next is an application for a beer and wine package license at 1608 South Jefferson. Ms. Dawson, would you speak to this item, please?
Yes, sir. H&R Fashions LLC doing business HRH Mart at 1608 South Jefferson Street has submitted an application request alcohol license for package sale of beer and wine. Applicant Sahali Musa Bagani, 815 Richmond Circle, Peachtree, Georgia. And Mahmoud Mayar Ali Denati, 1447 U.S. Highway 19, Unit 12A, Leesburg. The local agent is Geraldine Wallace of 2017 West Oakridge Drive, Lot 26 in Albany. The type of business is a convenience store, which is currently open. The planning department identified this location zone as C2 on Alterior Street in Ward 6. This requirement must be greater than 100 yards from schools and churches. The nearest school is Monroe High School, 900 Lippert Drive. The nearest church is Greater Pine Chapel at 1203 South Jefferson Street. This location was previously Coachman's Groceries from 2005 to 2014. Butcher's Wholesale Meat Outlet from 2015 to 2019. There are two additional businesses in the strip mall that is open, Charlie's and Pearl's Restaurant and Master Cut. The next closest stores are Dixon at 1719 MLK Junior Boulevard, and National Package at 301 West Oakridge Drive, and Junebug's numbered 1 at 1905 South Madison Street. The police department has no open investigation at this location. The cause was a miscellaneous theft by taking. The applicant placed an article in Albany Herald 10 days prior to this meeting as a notification to the general public that this application will be considered for approval. The applicants meet the criteria for approval.
Thank you, Ms. Dawson. Any questions, Mayor Pro Tem?
No question.
Commissioner Fuller?
No questions.
Commissioner Fletcher?
No questions.
Commissioner Warmington?
No questions.
Commissioner Langstaff?
No questions.
Commissioner Young?
Yes, sir. I would ask again the question as to where in proximity are residential homes to this particular establishment?
Yes, sir. Again, proximity for the home is not a requirement, but I can get that. I just have the requirement that the ordinance states is that's for the schools and the churches. I don't have the proximity for the residential structures in the area.
Well, I guess in light of the fact that you visited this area, do you recall where did you see homes? Were they across the street? Were they a block away?
Yes, sir. It is the actual homes across the street. It's residential structure across the street from the location.
Okay. No further questions, Mayor.
Thank you, Ms. Dawson. The chair would entertain a motion to approve the application.
Mr. Mayor, if there's no motion to approve, I would like to offer a motion to deny.
I'll second the motion.
There can't be a vote on a denial motion until there's been the hearing required by your city code. So I'll get with Norman and Donaldson, and there's already one out there that I understand Marshall Norman is going to get back with me on a date for that hearing, and we'll just set this one down also, if that's okay. But again, the particular code section, I think it's 10-169, says before there can be a vote for denial, the applicant has to be sent notice of a hearing, be allowed to attend and present whatever evidence they care to present, and of course, cross-examine any evidence presented by the city. So that's where we are.
Any questions, Commissioner Young?
No, sir.
I think we all understand the procedure now. The next item on the agenda is an application for a license at 2340 Dawson Road. Mr. Dawson, can you provide background information on this property?
Yes, sir. Sri Shashi Pujan LLC, doing business as Creekside 3 at 2340 Dawson Road, has submitted an application requesting an alcohol license transfer of ownership for package and sale of beer and wine. The applicant is Shavani Patel at 158 Quail Valley Drive, Leesburg, Georgia. The local agent is Viral Patel at 2220 Friar Tuck Lane, apartment 11 in Albany. The business type of business convenience store. The planning department identified this location zone in C3 on an arterial street in Ward 5. This is an existing location licensed by Pujan Enterprise Incorporation, doing business as BP Food Mart from 2003 to 2020. The police department has no open investigation at this location. There was 14 report incidents, 4 fraud reports, 3 accident reports, 7 person offenses, disorderly conduct. The applicant placed an article in the Albany Herald 10 days before this meeting and notification to the general public that this application will be considered for approval. The application meets the criteria for approval.
Thank you, Ms. Donaldson. Mayor Pro Tem, any questions?
No question.
Commissioner Fuller,
No questions.
Commissioner Fletcher,
No questions.
Commissioner Warburton.
Yeah, Mr. Donaldson, can you cover those police? You said there were 15 in the last 12 months. What was the time frame of that? Or if you could go over those again.
It was 14 reported incidents, and it was 4 fraud reports, 3 accident reports, 7 person offenses, disorderly conduct, freight, and just miscellaneous reports.
Do you have any details on those 7 disorderly? Does it relate to gaming machines, or what does it relate to? Do you have any details?
No, I don't have the details. Hold on. Burglar alarms, contact persons, a lot of them was building checks, loss of mislaid property, motor vehicle theft, suspicious person, a fraud, a couple of panhandling cases.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Commissioner Langstaff,
No questions.
Commissioner Young,
No questions.
the chair will entertain a motion to approve the application for a transfer.
I make a motion to approve.
Is there a second?
Second.
5 seconds.
Okay. There's been a motion second. Under discussion. Mayor Pro Tem.
No discussion.
Commissioner Fuller.
No discussion.
Commissioner Fletcher.
No discussion.
Commissioner Warburton.
Nothing further.
Commissioner Langstaff.
No discussion.
Commissioner Young.
No discussion.
Could we call the roll, Mr. Hicks?
Ward 1.
No.
Ward 2.
Yes.
Ward 3.
Yes.
Ward 4.
Yes.
Ward 5.
Yes.
Ward 6. Yes. Mayor.
Yes. The next item on the agenda, there are some appointments. The first is to the Albany Housing Authority, and it appears the mayor has an appointment. Is that correct, Ms. Hicks?
Yes, correct. Ms. Linda Costin is to be considered for reappointment.
Ms. Costin is hereby reappointed. And the next appointments would be to the tree board. And as I understand it, each commissioner and the mayor have an appointment.
Yes, correct. I'll read them out.
Okay. Mayor Pro Tem?
I nominate for the tree board.
Yes, sir.
Dr. Jeff Hoot desire to be reappointed.
Okay. Commissioner Fuller, do you have an appointment?
I'm going to have to get back. I've got 2 that are supposed to let me know, but they have not confirmed. So gonna have to get back to us on that one.
Okay. If you have an extra one, give them my phone number. Commissioner Fletcher?
I nominate Carlos Phillips.
Okay. Now, Ms. Davis, Commissioner Fletcher just made an appointment, correct?
Yes, that's
Not a
right.
nomination.
That's correct.
Okay.
That person is now on the board. Yep.
Okay.
Thank
you. Commissioner Warburton?
Yeah, I'll keep Richard Foreman and appoint him.
Commissioner Langstaff?
I reappoint Chuck Norval.
Commissioner Young?
I appoint Carolyn Clark.
Okay.
Goldenrod, Albany, Georgia.
Okay. Thank you, Commissioner Young. And Ms. Hicks, can we continue to advertise for the mayor's appointment? Okay. Next item on the agenda is an ordinance authorizing the closure of Highland Avenue between South Jackson Street and South Jefferson Street.
Mayor.
Okay. To just some background here, we have 3 ordinances on the agenda. The chair would like to make a motion to ask for unanimous consent to dispense with the second reading of each of these 3 ordinances. Is there a second?
Second.
Okay. Any discussion? Mayor Pro Tem.
No discussion.
Commissioner Fuller.
No discussion.
Commissioner Fletcher.
No discussion.
Commissioner Warmington.
So I'm confused. It says budget amendment for Brownfield Grant Fund. I thought the budget amendment was for, there were 2 items for is the 2 items under the light fund?
There are 2 items under the light fund, and there's a budget amendment needed for the Brownfield grant also.
Okay, I'm not in favor of the all 3, and the reason is because the Brownfield expenditure is down under resolutions, and there's some discussion that I would like to have about the Brownfield revolving loan fund. So I'm not in agreement to number 3.
No, I'm not asking to move like a consent agenda. I'm
not in agreement to dispense with the second reading.
Okay. All right. Well, so we can, okay. I'll make the a motion to offer the alley closure to dispense with the second reading of the proposal for the alley closure. Is there a second?
Second.
Okay. Any discussion, Mayor Pro Tem?
No discussion.
Commissioner Fuller?
No discussion.
Commissioner Fletcher?
No discussion.
Commissioner Warmington?
Yeah, no discussion.
Commissioner Langstaff?
No discussion.
Commissioner Young?
No discussion.
Okay. Well, we've decided that okay, call the roll, Ms. Hicks.
Ward 2.
Yes.
Ward 3.
Yes.
Ward 4.
Yes.
Ward 5.
Yes.
Ward 6.
Yes.
Mayor.
Yes. And now we proceed to the agenda item being the closure of a portion of the alley, the Highland Avenue alley between South Jackson Street and South Jefferson Street to accommodate the construction of the transportation center. We've discussed this item, had a public hearing. Is there any further, well, let me ask, any questions or comments? Mayor Pro Tem.
No comment.
Commissioner Fuller?
No discussion.
Commissioner Fletcher?
No comment.
Commissioner Warrington?
Nothing.
Commissioner Langstaff?
No discussion.
Commissioner Young?
No discussion.
Okay. I'll offer the ordinance and ask for its adoption. Any further discussion? Mayor Pro Tem. Commissioner Fuller?
No discussion.
Commissioner Fletcher?
No discussion.
Commissioner Warrington?
No discussion.
Commissioner Langstaff?
No discussion.
Commissioner Young?
No discussion.
Okay, can we call the roll, Mr. Hicks?
Mayor,
Yes, ma'am.
you didn't get a second.
Commissioner,
I
yeah, Mayor
second.
Pro Tem seconded.
Okay, sorry, I didn't hear.
Ward 1,
Yes.
Ward 2,
Yes.
Ward 3,
Yes.
Ward 4,
Yes.
Ward 5,
Yes.
Ward 6,
Yes.
Mayor.
Yes. And the next item is a proposed budget amendment authorizing an expenditure of $40,000 for electrical vehicle charging stations and authorizing another $79,100 to move forward with the contract with GDS Associates of Marietta. Mr. Brown, are you going to speak to this item?
Yes, sir, I can. Just a brief recap. These two items were approved by the utility board. And as you mentioned, the first is for a project for electric charging stations on Front Street. And the second is a proposal from a consultant to come in and evaluate our, look at our utility contracts, look at our capacity, just do an overall assessment from basically an independent point of view. And so the two items have been approved by the utility board, but because they were not included in the fiscal 21 budget, is being presented this evening for approval to amend the budget to move forward with those two items.
Thank you, Mr. Brown. Any questions, Mayor Pro Tem?
No question.
Commissioner Fuller?
No questions.
Mr. Fletcher?
No questions.
Commissioner Warrington?
No question.
Commissioner Langstaff?
No questions.
Commissioner Young?
No questions.
The chair entertain a motion for approval of the ordinance.
Make a motion for approval.
Offer the ordinance and ask.
Okay.
Gotta offer the order and ask for its adoption.
To dispense with the second reading.
Move to dispense with the second reading, offer the ordinance for adoption.
Second.
Any discussion, Mayor Pro Tem?
No discussion.
Commissioner Fuller?
No discussion.
Commissioner Fletcher?
No discussion.
Commissioner Warrington?
No discussion.
Commissioner Langstaff?
No discussion.
Commissioner Young?
Yes, sir. I just want to say that I appreciate the mayor offering this up as a solution to move us a few steps forward in, becoming an energy efficient and using green solutions here in the city. And I hope that's a step that we can continue in the future. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Continue to implore the staff to attempt to source electric vehicles. But with that, if you could call the roll, Mr. Hicks.
Ward 1,
Yes.
Ward 2,
Yes.
Ward 3,
Yes.
Ward 4,
Yes.
Ward 5,
Yes.
Ward 6,
Yes.
Mayor.
Mayor votes yes. And the next item on the agenda is another request for a budget amendment. And this is to authorize the expenditure of $192,000 to hire a consultant to assist with technical aspects of a grant for remediation. Ms. Fields, can you speak to this, please, ma'am?
Excuse me, Mayor, and I guess this is my agenda item, but I guess to Commissioner Warburton's point, when it was presented last week, the amendment, the agenda item said that a budget amendment would be required if this agenda item is approved. So right now, the agenda item is for a budget amendment, but it's contingent upon the item being approved later on in this meeting. So hopefully that provides some clarity to what Commissioner Warburton was stating about this particular agenda item.
Okay, well, it would seem we need to move on the resolution before we have the ordinance. Is that correct or incorrect?
That's correct. It's normally the ordinances are listed first, but you're correct. The resolution would have to be passed. So I would request that we bypass this and come back to it if necessary.
We'll follow that course. The now moving on to resolutions. The first is a proposal to rename Carver Park for Coach Charles Driscoll.
Mayor,
Yes, Commissioner Fletcher.
I was going to offer the resolution and ask for its adoption. Since we've already talked about it. Thank you.
Okay, yes, ma'am. All right.
I second it.
Under discussion, Mayor Pro Tem.
No discussion.
Commissioner Fuller.
No discussion.
Commissioner Fletcher, I was going to just ask you to, I know we've discussed it, but I think for the people that are watching, we kind of came to an agreement. We need to at least give some background. Would you like to do that?
I can do that on both of them. That's coming up on February 25th with Mr. Kelvin Crawford present. We talked about changing the Carver Park to Coach Driscoll due to the legacy that he has left in this community, and we formed a committee, and we got a 5-0 vote.
Okay.
Is that good enough?
Yes, ma'am. Thank you very much. Commissioner Warburton.
Thank you.
Yeah, no discussion.
Mr. Langstaff.
No discussion.
Commissioner Young.
No discussion.
Okay. With that, could we call for the vote?
Ward 1, Ward 2,
Yes.
Ward 3,
Yes.
Ward 4,
Yes.
Ward 5,
Yes.
Ward 6,
Yes.
Mayor.
Yes, and I would again request that we have some prominent display recognizing Coach Driscoll and his contributions to the community.
Yes, sir. The signs will be ready. This is Mr. Gray from Facilities. The signs will be ready shortly after this meeting, within the next few days.
Could we see them before they go up? As opposed, I'm talking more about a plaque, Mr. Gray. There's some of these parks in town, I think we've named after people and we don't properly recognize them. But we can discuss that. Commissioner Young?
Yes, I did want to make one note. I don't know who's necessarily responsible for making sure the records are correct on the internet, because actually Carver Park is showing up in Google as Mary Young Cummings Park. And we had an event there this weekend where some people were using their GPS, and that GPS led them to Carver Park and not Mary Young Cummings Park. So if maybe somebody I guess with tech or can look at how that's actually done to correct that.
Thank you, Commissioner Young. The next item is a proposal to rename the Transit Center for Ola May Quarterman Clemens. Again, could you give us some background on that, Ms. Fletcher, Commissioner Fletcher, and we'll go forward from there.
Yes, sir, Mayor. On January 28th, Frank Wilson of Civil Rights Museum approached us about naming the Transit Operations Facility, changing the name to Ola May Quartermain Clemens. On August 12th, we had the necessary hearings. Frank Wilson was present. Again, we were able to get a 5-0 vote to move this forward. Thank you.
Thank you for your work, Commissioner Fletcher. And with that, any questions, Mayor Pro Tem?
No question.
Any questions, Commissioner Fuller?
No question.
Any questions,
Commissioner Fletcher?
No, sir.
Commissioner Warburton?
No question.
Commissioner Langstaff?
No questions.
Commissioner Young?
No questions.
With that, the chair would entertain a motion or
I hope the resolution after it's adopted.
is there a second?
Second.
Okay, motion is second. Under discussion, Mayor Pro Tem.
No discussion.
Commissioner Fuller?
No discussion.
Commissioner Fletcher?
No discussion.
Commissioner Warburton?
Yeah, no discussion.
Commissioner Langstaff?
No discussion.
Commissioner Young?
No discussion.
Ms. Hicks, could we call we'll vote, please, sir.
Ward 1,
Yes.
Ward 2,
Yes.
Ward 3,
Yes.
Ward 4,
Yes.
Ward 5,
Yes.
Ward 6,
Yes.
Mayor.
Mayor votes yes. Next item on the agenda is
Mayor, can I suggest a consent agenda as a proposal for the following items under resolutions? Number 3, the APD Albany Tech College Memorandum of Understanding, the APD Turner Job Corps. Number 4, the Enterprise Neighborhood Revitalization Strategy. Number 5. Number 6, the Pace Building Renovation. Number 7, SPLOST 7 for sidewalks. I would like to skip number 8, which is the Brownfield Loan Fund. Then offer number 9, the lift station telemetry. Number 10, housing counseling grant award. Number 11, the employee group benefits. And then I would like to exclude number 12 because I know we need to discuss that. So I offer these resolutions as I just discussed and ask for their adoption.
That would be 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 9, 10, and 11.
Yes, sir.
Is there a second?
Second.
Okay. Does any member of the commission have objection to moving these items on the consent agenda? Mayor Pro Tem.
I would like to have number 7 discussed.
Okay. With that exception, could we move the rest of the items?
We can.
Commissioner Fuller?
I'm fine with moving ahead with Commissioner Warburton's proposal.
Okay. Commissioner Fletcher?
I'm good.
Commissioner
Yes.
Warburton?
Yeah, I'm good with Commissioner Howard's change.
Okay. Commissioner Langstaff?
That's fine.
Okay.
Commissioner Young? That's fine.
Okay. And with that, I think the proper way to do it, if you don't mind, Commissioner Warburton, would be to make a amended motion excluding item 7.
So this doesn't include the number 1 that's already on the, I was wanting to move all this to the consent agenda, which I guess we'll vote on and discuss.
Okay.
But the amended is 3, 4, 5, 6, exclude 7 and 8, 9, 10, 11, exclude number 12.
Okay.
that would all move to the consent agenda that's later in the meeting.
Thank you. Okay, is there a second to that? Second, any discussion? Mayor Pro Tem?
No discussion.
Mr. Fuller?
No discussion.
Commissioner Fletcher?
No discussion.
Mr. Warrington?
No discussion.
Commissioner Langstaff?
No discussion.
Commissioner Young?
No discussion.
And could we call for a roll call vote, Mr. Hicks? Moving items 3, 4, 5, 6, 8. No, I'm sorry. 3, 4, 5, 6, 9, 10, and 11 to the consent agenda.
Ward 1?
Yes.
Ward 2,
Yes.
Ward 3,
Yes.
Ward 4,
Yes.
Ward 5,
Yes.
Ward 6?
Yes.
Mayor?
Yes. So the next item, it would take us to number 7. And Ms. Fields, do you have this item? Is Ms. Fields with us?
She was.
Mayor, I can just expedite. I just want to ask Bruce a quick question.
Okay.
Bruce, good evening. Are you there?
Yes, sir, I'm here.
Okay, Spross 70's 2020 sidewalks, and I see that the contractor has approximately 300 days, calendar days to complete it, right?
Yes, sir.
Okay. If we vote on tonight, do you know when they would completely start shovel ready?
No, sir, not at this time. We'll go through the process once you give us, if you vote tonight in favor of it, we'll, Ms. Fields will send them a notice of award. They'll also proceed there. They'll start getting their bonds together. They'll submit them to us with all the appropriate information. It'll be reviewed. Once all that is cleared and we get the appropriate documentation, then we'll set up a pre-construction meeting. We'll go through all the particulars of the construction, answer any questions. And then once we do all that, we'll issue a notice to proceed and a start date will be assigned. And then they'll have the 300 days. We'll start from that point.
Okay. And Ms. Smith, the reason why I wanted this to give a very brief detail that I hate that we're doing it in piecemeal, but I do understand that when the funds are not there to complete a whole project, and it was our anticipation that, as the city manager has said, that if we are fortunate to get the bill grant this year, that we can have this piece of Broad from East Street all the way to the Broad Avenue Bridge, because there's a high volume of individuals that walked and ride bicycles. So this will be, I'm hoping that this bill grant will be approved sometime at the end of this year, and we can, in a future date, sometime next year, have the whole Broad Street sidewalks completed. That's
Mayor.
it.
Yes, ma'am.
Unfortunately, we got notified that we have not been approved for the build grant. So I think we'll be bringing back maybe a conversation with you about how you want to proceed with sidewalks.
Can I ask a question?
Yes, sir.
Dan.
Yes, sir.
Good evening. How you do?
I'm well.
We have not been approved for the bill grant.
No, sir. We just got notified. We sent something out late this afternoon to you all to let you know that we were not approved.
Okay. If we was not approved this year, can we reapply next year? Or
Yes,
they just
sir.
say-
However, in my email to you today, I recommended that we do another study. Perhaps our information is kind of dated, and it probably will be helpful for us to have more relevant information, but certainly we can apply next year. And if there are other opportunities, we can apply as well. But I'd like for you to all consider that at probably a later work session. discussion.
Okay, thank you very kindly.
You're welcome.
Commissioner Fuller,
No discussion.
Commissioner Fletcher,
No discussions.
Commissioner Warburton,
No discussion.
Commissioner Langstaff,
No discussion.
Commissioner Young.
No discussion.
I would just like to say that East Broadest Avenue needs to be a priority for this commission, and if we have to allocate further SPLOST funds, that's a project that needs to be done. With that, the chair would entertain a motion.
Offer resolution, act for its adoption.
Second. Any discussion? Mayor Pro Tem.
No discussion.
Commissioner Fuller.
No discussion.
Commissioner Fletcher.
No discussion.
Commissioner Warburton.
No discussion.
Commissioner Langstaff.
No discussion.
Commissioner Young.
No discussion.
We can call the roll. We lost Mr. Hicks. Mayor Pro Tem.
Yes.
Commissioner Fuller.
Yes.
Commissioner Fletcher.
Yes.
Commissioner Warburton.
Yes.
Commissioner Langstaff.
Yeah.
Commissioner Young.
Yes.
Mayor votes yes. The next item is the Brownfield Revolving Loan Fund. And is Ms. Fields going to speak to this? You with us, Ms. Fields? Ms. Fields, you have the floor. You have to press that button.
She's not muted, but we can't hear her. Yeah, we're not hearing Yvette. Would you like somebody else to speak to it?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. I'm not sure if Bruce or Paul are on. But as we shared in the work session, the Brownfield Revolving Loan Fund is an atypical grant. It's a grant that encourages the city to make loans to prospective redevelopers of brownfield properties. Of course, a brownfield property is a property that either has contamination, is suspected of having contamination, or has been confirmed to have contamination. And so we applied for this grant, were awarded, and now we'd like to, and the board accepted the grant at a previous meeting. And now we'd like to enter into a contract to establish the program and begin to engage in seeking developers to participate with us in the redevelopment of projects that are characterized as brownfields. So Paul, do you have anything else that you need to add?
Sure, thank you. Good evening, Mayor and Commissioners. This is a $192,000 contract, but it is for a 5-year period. So it's not just for 1 year. It's a 5-year period, which and it's for a variety of things that the staff just does not have the skill to do. We need a qualified environmental professional as part of the team to implement the revolving loan fund. So it cannot be done without someone like Cardno, and they have a tremendous amount of expertise in revolving loan funds. They're currently administering 3 in Georgia and another one in Florida. So they know a lot about it. They've been very helpful on our current assessment grant. We believe that they are highly capable, and This is it's reimbursable. So it's not like we're cutting them $192,000 check. It's reimbursable over the next 5 years up to not to exceed $192,000.
Thank you, Ms. Porgy. Any questions, Mayor Pro Tem?
No discussion.
Mr. Fuller?
No discussion.
Mr. Fletcher?
No discussion.
Mr. Warrington?
Yeah, I've got a couple of questions. So I read the grant last night. I'm getting an echo from somewhere. So I read the grant last night, and I know we wrote the grant targeting 2 specific sites, the beach jump property on the east side of the river, and then the old theater over here on Jackson as our 2 primary sites. Are we bound to work on those 2 sites? Can we say we're not going to work on those 2 and go work on other sites, or how does it work in terms of where we
put those in the grant? We put those in the grant application, and it's the same with the assessment. We put those in to establish a plan and an intent. But once we get funded, we can deviate from that with no issue whatsoever. The assessment was exactly the same. We had a plan, but once we were funded, we deviated from that plan. They fully expect that we may deviate. The purpose of the revolving loan fund is to work with developers as they come in to develop something in Albany. So if there's no development interest in either of those properties, we'd have no reason to clean them up under this program. What we're doing is trying to market Albany and potential sites like those to developers. And when they come in and have a plan to redevelop somewhere, then we can loan them money to clean up any brownfield issues.
Okay. All right. Well, that's good news. I definitely think the theater is a site that needs tremendous work and is definitely a drawdown here in the city. The beach jump property across the river could be, but so I'm glad to hear that we could entertain new projects and not be bound to those. But my only concern with this is giving $192,000, and we haven't established as a leadership group what our priorities are. Now, I understand there's one philosophy of you wait for developers to approach you. There's also a philosophy that, we all live here, work here, run businesses here. We know the sites that need work that could attract a developer, and I'm just suggesting that possibly we don't launch into the consultant as much, and maybe we do some more discussing at the commission level to say, hey, here's 5 sites, here's 6 sites, here's 2 sites that we believe are really attractive if cleaned up. We know where the eyesores are. We know where, I hate to say it, the armpits are that need attention, that need revitalization, where blight, more than likely environmental issues. And so I'm just concerned that we're spending a lot of money, and even looking through their proposal, it's hard for me to determine what they're working on for the 192. Not to say they're not doing meaningful work, but so what would be the process of when projects will come back to us to align on the priority or align on what we want to work on first?
Well, go ahead.
The first thing I think we would do is establish the parameters of the program so that the board could approve those parameters. What constitutes a project that you would support, what the terms and conditions would be around a loan. Would you be willing to set an interest rate? What time frame would that loan be repaid over? So the program actually needs to be established, and I would envision that would come to the board once the program is established for your approval. And I think that certainly collaboratively we can work on a list of your highest priorities and we'll market those. But, sometimes the developer may pick a site that's not necessarily in your top 3, but it's still a brownfield site that that would benefit from the program. Ultimately, the board will decide if we should grant a loan to that developer, but it's sort of a two-sided piece. It's not that we can just go out and clean up a property and kind of build it and they will come. That's not how the program is designed.
Okay, so will all projects be a loan, or will there be some that we just decide, hey, we need to clean this up?
No, this is strictly a revolving loan program. This is not, we can't just go out and clean something up, not on this program. This one is specifically a loan program, specifically to draw development and redevelopment of brownfield properties.
I thought I saw the word grant in that we could elect to offer a grant instead of a loan.
We're the grantee. So, they've granted us the funding for us to turn it into a revolving loan program. There are circumstances, again, when we draft our rules, there are circumstances where they allow you to make the loan forgivable. And therefore it would be a grant. But usually that's under certain circumstances, like if it were a nonprofit.
Okay, so let's just use the Albany Theater, for instance. Mm-hmm. The city could not use this grant funding to go do any work at that site until we have a developer in hand that says, I want to do X, Y, Z on that property, and then we extend the loan to them.
Or unless it was some kind of public-private partnership of some sort. So perhaps Attica, DDA, and a developer in the city. Maybe collectively we decided to do something on that site. Perhaps we could use it in that vein. And Paul, if you have anything to add, you can jump in also.
You're exactly right on everything you said.
Okay, I would just prefer, being a fiduciary responsibility of the city, is until this is clear and we understand the direction, is to maybe launch out into a smaller amount of money and try to define the program, define what we want to do as a commission, and then do what's necessary to meet the need. So that would be my direction. The other question, I guess, this relates to the budget amendment that's coming up. So the grant was awarded in May, but none of the proceeds nor the expense is in the budget for 2021.
No, at that time we were finalizing the budget, and we also didn't have, an idea of exactly what was going to be required. This grant does not have a match, so this is all federal money. And we do have a grant fund as part of the budget. And what we're asking for is to allow us to be able to amend the budget, the grant portion of the budget, by the amount for the consultant.
But this is going to be over 5 years. So we're putting all in the budget for this year?
We put in the amendment for that amount. It could be adjusted. We could prorate to determine how much we'll use this year. And, if you're more comfortable in restricting the amount per year, I don't think Cardinal would have a problem with that either. And I don't think we would.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Commissioner Langstaff.
No questions.
Commissioner Young.
No questions.
I would just say that I was under the impression that this was a grant that the city could utilize to remediate contaminated property. And now, correct me if I'm wrong, Ms. Subadan, this is a grant that creates a fund so that the city can loan money to developers. It's really an incentive to the private sector to invest in property that would otherwise be prohibited because of the contamination.
That is correct.
Okay.
Well,
Okay. That item we have, is there a motion to approve the resolution?
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem, you make up over the resolution?
Of the resolution, act for its adoption.
Is there a second? Second. Any discussion, Mayor Pro Tem?
No further discussion.
Commissioner Fuller?
No discussion.
Commissioner Fuller?
He said no discussion.
No discussion.
You can't hear him?
Can you hear me? I said no discussion.
Okay, thank you, sir. Commissioner Fletcher?
No discussion.
Commissioner Warburton?
Yeah, I would like to ask for a substitute motion. I would like to take the 192,000 and divide by 5, which is 38,400, and basically assume an even amount of spending over the 5 years for this item. So basically, the substitute motion would be for 38,400 per car new.
Okay. We have a substitute motion. Is there a second?
I'll second it just for the discussion.
okay.
Okay.
Is there any discussion on substitute motion?
There is discussion. Okay. Discussion. Mayor Pro Tem, we have a substitute motion to basically allocate the $192,000 payments in equal installments over 5 years. Any discussion?
No discussion.
Commissioner Fuller?
Well, I understand Commissioner Warren's concern, but if we had a developer or a project that we were ready to go that might cost, we might need more of that money in any particular year, we might be hamstringing ourselves. So I would vote no on that. Thank you.
Commissioner Fletcher?
I would vote no, not to reduce it.
Okay. Commissioner Warburton?
So to clarify, this is to get them started for 38.4. If a developer knocks on our door tomorrow, all it would take for us is to reconvene, or actually this is within the city manager's spending limit, and they could easily be increased. I guess I'm just really concerned with writing a 192 purchase order that kind of falls off our radar, and not to say that this group would mismanage or overcharge us, but there's just not a lot of clarity. And so you're writing a $192,000 purchase order in an attempt to get clarity, and I appreciate that, but a $38,000 cap would allow an avenue for them to come back to us, or the city manager to come back to us and say, hey, we've expended the funds. We've got 3 developers that are knocking on our door. And I guarantee all 7 of us will say, yes, spend the money. We got 3 developers knocking on the door. I just feel like at this point, we don't have that, and we don't have that clarity. And I'm just, I would be concerned of writing an open-ended purchase order over 5 years, and not having any kind of hurdles or points that they would come back to us for managing the money.
Commissioner Langstaff?
I'm in favor of the original resolution.
Revolution or resolution?
Either one.
Okay. Commissioner Young?
I guess what I understand Commissioner Warburton's point, I guess where I'm kind of confused is, that better? Okay, I'm just kind of confused as to, explain it to me again, how chopping this money up will work. Are you waiting on a developer? Do you have like a developer in mind or what?
Oh, no. This is, reading the grant last night before I went to bed was the first time that I had consumed, the 40-page grant. And I would encourage, if any of the other commissioners haven't read it, to read the grant to understand the whole grant process. And really, my substitute motion was not to chop it up into 5. Really, it was just to say, okay, the first year is going to be 38.4, 38.5, whatever the motion was, to drive a second conversation at the end of the year, during the year, assuming they do equal work. It would just drive us having another conversation for them to come back and to explain why they need more money. What have they been working on for the first 38,000? I just believe this can be a very powerful grant for our community. As we have economic development projects come where people are bringing jobs, new businesses, this is great. This is exactly what we need to make that happen. It would be a travesty if we get to year number 3 and the money's gone, or we're like, well, who made, when did we as a group decide to go do what? I would rather this be in front of us more than less. And especially on the very front end, having kind of a lower threshold would drive the consultant to come back and have conversations about it and for us to agree to an overall direction.
Well, with this particular grant, did we use those sites to apply for the grant, or we just applied sight unseen? And that's a question for Mr. Forgy.
You're asking if we applied for specific sites?
Right.
With the grant? Yes, we did in the proposal, but the way the proposal is structured, EPA understands that once we get funded, those may not be priorities because our priorities will be in response to developers or development interest. So if there's never any development interest in those properties, there'd be no reason to issue them a loan. We would be responding to developers' interest to make loans with people to clean up property.
Okay. No further questions.
Okay, let's call the question on the substitute motion. Chris Warburton, you want to restate that so we all know what we're voting on?
Yeah, the motion was, let me get my calculator out here. I just figured it up. The motion was to, instead of $192,000 purchase order for Cardno, is to give them $38,400 purchase order. And that is equivalent to 1/5 of the amount of money that we're saying that they need to assist us with the loan. So it's $38,400.
6, can you call the roll, please?
Ward 1?
No.
Ward 2?
No.
Ward 3?
No.
Ward 4?
Yes.
Ward 5?
No.
Ward 6?
No.
Mayor?
No. Now, I think Commissioner Warburton had the floor on the main motion.
For discussion?
Yes, sir.
Okay, assuming this is approved, what kind of reports will we get back on this this item?
We can report to you quarterly. We certainly want to involve you in the structure of the program. And, if you want to be informed more frequently than that, that's, just let us know. I mean, none of this is going to be done in the secret. There's a portion of this that involves the public. They will have community input. It's an entire program, and because it's revolving, it's intended to be over a long period of time. As money comes back to the program, it gets to be reallocated, sometimes to a smaller project, maybe a bigger project. It also puts us in line for other potential grants.
So
if the board is interested in future brownfield grants, I'm not so sure.
So this 192 there's no assessments in this 192. Assessments would be separate.
That's correct. Actual assessments and actual cleanup would be separate. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, like phase 1, phase 2.
Right. Those are separate. Mm-hmm.
Are those things that we can engage in without a developer and the phase 1 assessment, phase 2 assessment?
On this program?
Mm-hmm.
No. Mm-hmm. Not on this program. Unless we had, maybe we didn't necessarily have a developer on the hook, but if we knew there was a burgeoning project, for example, I believe that we could incorporate that. But again, remember, this is a loan program.
Yeah, it's just, I go back to the grant. I did not realize that the theater on Jackson has so many potential environmental issues.
It does.
Not just asbestos, but there's buried tanks.
Underground, yes, there is.
Allegedly.
Oh, there is.
I would think before we could even get a developer engaged, we would need to be able to explain, here's the problems definitively.
Yeah.
So that's why I was asking. I would think that if we've got some key areas like that, it would be to our advantage to go ahead and get the assessment done versus.
Well, can I share that there is the actual assessment and cleanup grant that we're planning to bring to you next month. That grant does require a match, and that would be the one that we would use to actually do investigations, assessments, and small cleanup. So that is something that Paul and the team will be bringing to you in October. And that is the grant that we've used previously, we've been awarded, and that is the grant that actually allows us to do investigation, do phase 1s and phase 2s, and puts us in a better position. Normally that grant is a companion to this one, which the reason we got this one is because we had an assessment grant before and we were successful in identifying properties and doing some cleanup. And if you remember, that's how we got to the museum, getting their grant and being able to move forward with the Belk building and the transition to downtown. So all of these are sort of pieces of the puzzle that work together.
Okay. All right. That's it, Mayor. Thank you.
Commissioner Langstaff? Commissioner Langstaff?
No comments.
Commissioner Young?
No further questions.
Yeah, I just, like Commissioner Warmington, I'm just not persuaded that we have to have a consultant retained at this time. And I'm listening to Mr. Forgy. He says, and I appreciate that fact, that we don't have the expertise to handle a remediation project like this. But I don't understand why we have a consultant before we have a project. And I recognize that on paper, this is a revolving loan theoretically, but in truth of the matter, you're probably going to forgive the loan. That's going to be one of the primary incentive to get somebody to invest in a project like this. I just think, and there again, it was only over the weekend that I understood that the city doesn't have control over this over this project, and these funds, that it's contingent on having a developer. And I would just think the prudent thing to do, and I don't understand why we wouldn't do that, is to postpone making payments from the funds to a consultant until such time as we had a developer who was actually interested in a given property. But with that, we call the vote on the main motion.
Ward 1?
Yes.
Ward 2?
Yes.
Ward 3?
Yes.
Ward 4?
No.
Ward 5? Ward 5?
Hugh, we can barely hear you.
Ward 5?
Yes.
Ward 6?
Yes.
Mayor?
No. Okay, the next item, Ms. Fields, we're talking about, it's a conditional item, the generators and transfer switches. Is Ms. Fields with us? We still have technical difficulties.
Yes.
You have to press that button.
With you.
Okay.
I did.
All right. You got the floor.
I pressed it a lot of times, actually. This was a bid, it's a conditional item because it was a bid for the purchase of generators and transfer switches for lift stations and wells regarding a hazard mitigation grant program. We put this bid out and advertised in the Herald, the city website, procurement registry. And in addition, we solicited directly 23 vendors, including 18 DBE vendors. And actually, we got responses from some DBE vendors. This purchase will be what we're seeking for approval of the purchase of 4 generators from Power and Energy Services of Lithia Springs, Georgia, in an amount of $381,685.96, and the purchase of 12 600 amp transfer switches from Flint Power Systems of Albany, Georgia, in the amount of $109,800. This grant, the deadline for performance of this grant is December 31st of 2020. And as you can see on the bid tabulation, lead time for the generators and the switches is quite long. So we need to be able to make the purchase, get them here, and then get them installed all before December 31st.
Thank you, Ms. Fields.
You're welcome.
Mr. Gray, do you want to speak to this item?
I believe Ms. Fields covered it. We're here for technical questions as our department is responsible for assisting and maintaining these generators over the long term. And of course, when we need backup generation power, particularly after storms, this is a capability that would really enhance our ability to reconnect, transferring those power requirements back to those well stations. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Gray. Ms. Norman, did Mr. Norman have anything to add? Is he on the line? Okay. Mayor Pro Tem, any questions from Ms. Sir?
I'm here, Mr. Mayor. I'm just here for any questions if anybody has any.
All right. Thank you, Ms. Norman.
Sir.
Mayor Pro Tem, any
No
questions?
question.
Commissioner Fuller?
No questions.
Commissioner Fletcher?
No questions.
Commissioner Warmington?
Yeah, Ms. Fields, just forgive me because I'm just now looking at this. So we're buying, so on the tabulation sheet, we're buying the generators from one company, but buying the transfer switches from another company.
That's correct.
And I guess with the generators, they weren't within the was it 5% local match that?
That is correct. They were not within that 5% local match.
But if you combined them all, I'm trying to think, because if you look down at the very bottom at the total, you know, Flint did have the total bid that was the lowest, but I guess it was phrased up front to them that this was a line item. We could buy one item or all of them from whoever.
Yes, we, sorry, my coworkers are barking. Yes, we structured the bid so that we could buy from whoever, and going at it the way we're doing at it, with awarding to 2 different vendors, actually saves us about $200,000 overall.
Okay, thank you.
Commissioner Langstaff?
No questions.
Commissioner Young?
No questions.
Okay, with that, I offer the resolution to ask for its adoption. Is there a second?
Second.
Motion and a second for discussion. Mayor Pro Tem.
No discussion.
Commissioner Fuller.
No discussion.
Commissioner Fletcher.
No discussion.
Commissioner Warrington.
Back to the generators from Power Energy Services. What kind of warranty service do they come down and service these things, or?
Sure, this is Mr. Gray. There's a 2-year warranty, and yes, within that time, they are serviced to include load testing.
So it's full service in Albany on-site warranty repairs.
That is correct, sir.
Okay, thank you.
Commissioner Langstaff.
No questions.
Commissioner Young.
No questions.
Mr. Hicks, would you call the roll?
Ward 1,
Yes.
Ward 2,
Yes.
Ward 3,
Yes.
Ward 4,
Yes.
Ward 5,
Yes.
Ward 6,
Yes.
Mayor.
Mayor votes yes. The next item on the agenda would be the consent agenda, and it's my understanding that from the resolutions, that would be items 3, memorandum of understanding between APD and Albany Technical College, memorandum of understanding, item 4, memorandum of understanding between Albany Police Department and Turner Job Corps, item 5, the approval of the Enterprise Neighborhood Revitalization Strategy Plan, number 6, authorization to move forward with the Pace Building renovation. Item 9, lift station telemetry upgrade. Item 10, approval accepting the 2021 Housing Counseling Grant Award. And item 11, the 2021 Employee Benefits Group Benefits Plan, approving the recommendations. And finally, the one item that was on the consent agenda was the authorizing the contract for operations assessment of the Albany Police Department, Barry Dunn from Portland, Maine. Is there a motion to approve the items
On the consent agenda or any correction?
I move that the consent agenda be approved.
Is there a second?
Point of order, Mayor. I don't agree with professional service being on consent agenda. I have further discussion on that item. So I would like to take that off the consent agenda.
Okay. With that, off the resolution, ask for its adoption. The consent agenda, items 3, the memorandum of understanding between Albany Police Department and Albany Technical College. Item number 4, memorandum of understanding between Albany Police Department and Turner Job Corps. Item number 5, approving the Albany Enterprise Redevelopment Plan. Item number 6, authorizing the report and further renovation of the Pace Building. Item 9, authorizing contracting with Casimir and Associates for the lift station telemetry upgrades. Item 10, accepting the grant award for the housing counseling. Item 11, approving the changes to the employee group benefits plan for 2021. Do I have a second?
Second.
Okay. Any discussion? Mayor Pro Tem.
No discussion.
Commissioner Fuller.
No discussion.
Commissioner Fletcher.
No discussion.
Commissioner Warrington.
No discussion.
Commissioner Langstaff.
No discussion.
Commissioner Young.
No discussion.
Would you call the roll, Mr. Hicks?
Mayor, you don't need roll call for consent agenda.
I'm sorry.
Y'all have a roll call vote on the consent agenda?
It's automatically approved once the motion and second.
You think I know that? Okay.
You sure?
Let's go ahead and take a vote anyway.
Anyway.
Yes.
Ward 1.
Yes.
Ward 2.
Yes.
Ward 3.
Yes.
Ward 4.
Yes.
Ward 5.
Yes.
Ward 6.
Yes.
Mayor.
Yes. And the next item, which was on the consent agenda and has been removed from the consent agenda, is the recommendation of the Committee of the Whole to approve the contract for operations assessment of Albany Police Department with the firm Barry Dunn from Portland, Maine. We heard a presentation from a representative of Barry Dunn at our last work session. Ms. Fields, would you give us some background on this?
Yes, sir. This is a contract for an operations assessment of the police department. This was duly advertised and evaluated by the members of the police department as well as procurement staff. This is for a contract for a total expenditure of $68,000 with Barry Dunn from Portland, Maine for an assessment of the police department.
Chief Pursley, do you have anything to add to this?
Only thing would be the concern for not pushing this forward. I think this is a good opportunity. The company is well respected, and we're ready to get the assessment started.
Thank you, Chief. Any questions, Mayor Pro Tem?
No question.
Commissioner Fuller?
No questions.
Commissioner Fletcher?
No questions.
Commissioner Warrington?
Yeah, Chief, I got a few questions. And first of all, I'm very supportive of an assessment. I think this is great. I appreciate your willingness and desire to bring this forward. So I had time to read the Barry Dunn's bid package. I just got it before the work session last time. One concern I have looking at their proposal is one of the items they listed probably 10 or 15 various surveys, worksheets, tools. One was a 21st century. Are those Barry Dunn, their proprietary tools? Are those industry-wide tools? I'm just, as policing and assessments, everything's changing in today's world. I'm just curious, are you comfortable with all the tools they mentioned and the validity and the usefulness of them?
Any survey is only good as the information that you get back from the people being surveyed. So being that the Dr. Wanzettel, the same process that he did for the International Association Chiefs of Police, which is the organization that covers all chiefs across the United States, being that they're using some of the same, it's the same concept. So I'm sure that whatever information, the assessment is only going to be good as the information that they get. So I haven't seen any of their surveys. I mean, we haven't even approved this to go forward. So, but based on what my technical assumption is that it's going to be in depth and get as much information as possible. One thing I will say, they were heavy on community feedback compared to the other applicants.
Okay, and that's perfect. That leads right into my second question, and this may be for information for the other commissioners, but a good bit of their proposal, as Chief just insinuated or just stated, was a good bit of community involvement, and they didn't get into the details, but certainly as we start getting town hall, they suggested doing town halls, they suggested doing some other community. I just had a few suggestions in terms of maybe we each have our own town hall or some way to kind of spread out to make sure. And even one statement was if it was feasible, and I was going to kind of take that off the table, that it is feasible, that I think is very important to hear from our community, hear from citizens, and to have more than less public comments, public interaction, to hear from our citizens and stakeholders in the community.
Rest about I need community input. I'm going to get community input. When we talked initially about the with Barry Dunn, even in the evaluation, they said that when we conduct our planning of this, we will discuss the various methods. I have various contacts within the community. We want to go all over. So whether it's a formal setting or an informal setting, we're going to push this information out, and they will help us with the developing whatever marketing that we need, best practices they've seen, so that we can grab all aspects. And I'm sure, well, I can tell you, since we did the announcement, I've already had people contact me saying they would be glad to take part in this assessment.
That's great. Then the other concern, I think this was talked about at the work session, is it's great to do an internal assessment and make ourselves better and to, get this, but the agencies that we touch, the agencies that we depend on, I really just want this assessment to even identify what are those other areas, albeit the court system, the DA, all the other agencies that we need to be successful in fighting crime, preventing crime, getting convictions, the whole 9 yards with crime prevention. And so I think I provided feedback in email that really I just want the assessment to even go into those agencies and I guess to interview them from a stakeholder standpoint. I mean, we don't have any authority on those agencies, but it would be good to get back from them and to hear some ways that maybe we can improve in those areas outside of even our own self.
That's included in the assessment, sir.
Yeah, right. I want to iterate.
That's part of it. When we talk about reaching out, we have to identify all of our stakeholders. So yes, that's part of it.
Okay. The last thing, in my opinion, this can be a very valuable, very important, very much something that we can come out with some clear, to validate some of the good things that we're doing and to say, hey, some things we can improve on. I was going to encourage, how could we have more commission participation? Even the project team, maybe that is referred to in the bid. Would you be open to have some commissioners serve on that team, or to have the commissioners copied on reports, or how can we get more commission involvement in that process?
Well, that's why I'm the project manager. Every information that I get back, that information will be passed to the mayor and the board of commissioners as we get updates. When you look at the evaluation process with all contracts that we evaluate, do we want to, that's a consideration you have to make. Do you want to overhaul that process? But then when you're looking at once the actual project goes, that's what we get. That's what you got me in charge of. Another part of it is when we do host these surveys, as they're going about doing the assessment, I do want to hear from everyone, to include the board as themselves. I'll take any and all suggestions and recommendations, and we'll make sure that this is a very thorough process. But I just asked, sir, that me being the project manager, that I can handle it. I'll make sure that your needs and the needs of the citizens are met. Yes, sir.
Okay. All right. Thank you. That's it, Mayor.
Commissioner Langstaff. Commissioner Langstaff. Commissioner Young.
No questions.
Okay. Just for clarification, Chief, did you say you'd rather not a member of the commission serve on the?
No, the planning, when I mentioned that, sir, when we did the evaluation part of it, it was myself, a member from procurement and a member from the finance department to where we evaluated all of the applicants. And that's why I was saying that part, if you want to overhaul that process to figure out who would be the right one. Now, once the project starts, at that point, they will come in and do the project. Along the way, I will give updates as often as you want. Now, if someone wants to get out and get into the weeds, then, you know, based on Sir, you, Ms. Subadan, whatever your recommendation or suggestion is. But I will say for the most part, being that I do have a good relationship with all the commissioners, I will probably be pushing you all for more information than you would me. But can't hear you, Mayor.
Maybe I misunderstood. Were you talking about the PAG, Commissioner Warby?
Yeah, I wasn't suggesting the team that selected Barry Dunn. I was suggesting the team that once Barry Dunn is selected in their bid package that talked about a project team, ongoing group that I guess that the various memos and reports and the monthly report, you know, and if you're the project team, then that, but I didn't know if it was more than one person that went through that.
It's the Barry Dunn team. We give them the information that they need. We set up the interviews that they want to do with whomever, and we'll push them out to everybody. When they give us information back, I'm the primary point of contact who gets the information back. Once I get the information, I don't mind sharing the information. I will probably give you more updates as we progress along in this project. And that's the only thing. They're doing the work. We're just providing the people they need to talk to and the information that they need.
So Chief, I was mistaken too. The project team is not a group of stakeholders from Albany. That's the consultant. Is that right?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Yes, sir. Mm-hmm.
All right, I was mistaken on that too. With that, the chair will entertain a motion.
Move the consent agenda.
No, this was moved off the consent agenda. Okay. Mayor Pro Tem, I think we have to offer the resolution and ask for it. Well, I'll offer the resolution and ask for its adoption.
Second.
Okay. Under discussion, Mayor Pro Tem.
No discussion.
Commissioner Fuller.
No discussion.
Commissioner Fletcher.
No discussion.
Commissioner Warmington.
No discussion.
Commissioner Langstaff.
No discussion.
Commissioner Young.
No discussion.
Okay. Ms. Hicks, will you call the roll, please?
Ward 1.
Yes.
Ward 2.
Yes.
Ward 3. Ward 3. Ward 3.
We can move on.
Ward 4.
Yes.
Ward 5.
Yes. Yes.
Ward.
Yes.
Yes.
And Mayor, Commissioner Fletcher just texted me that she's saying yes, but I don't know why we can't hear her.
I don't know what to do about that. I don't think you can vote by proxy, can you? Well, it's okay. It's 5-0 anyway, and Commissioner Fletcher expressed her support. That's on the record. The next item for information, we have the fall. Excuse me? Who's that? The next item for clarification, it was my understanding we were going to begin the retreat this Sunday at 3 o'clock. Is that correct or incorrect?
Last I heard from the city clerk, she had a draft of 2 o'clock.
2 o'clock, okay. And I understand Commissioner Fuller can't be there until later in the evening, but I think we need to get an early start so we can get as much accomplished over these 2 days as possible.
Yes, sir. I'll be coming in from out of town, but I'll be there as soon as possible.
Okay. Well, don't speed. Mayor Pro Tem.
Ms. Subadan,
Yes, sir.
I just confer with the mayor and he said that at our retreat, because we're having so much of crime and stuff in the city in the last several weeks, that can we have the police chief there, the gang unit there, and the drug squad there?
The chief is already scheduled to be there, and we have public safety on the agenda for Monday. And so we can reach out and ask the others to attend. You said the ADDU and who else?
The gang task force.
The chief can have the representative there, and we'll reach out to ADDU to have them attend also.
Thank you.
On Monday.
Any other comments about the retreat, Mayor Pro Tem?
No other comment.
Commissioner Fuller?
No, sir.
Commissioner Fletcher? Commissioner Warrington?
Nothing else.
Commissioner Langstaff?
Nothing else.
Commissioner Young?
No questions.
Okay, look forward to seeing everybody at the lake at 2:00. Next, yes, ma'am.
Sorry to interrupt, but I think I lost track, but did we ever go back and deal with the ordinance for the Brownfield grant? You passed it, you passed the resolution, but I think we were supposed to go back and revisit the ordinance because it was out of order.
Okay, it's on page 35, right? Yeah. Okay, yes, I'm sorry. And that would be an amendment to the budget to reflect the payment. Okay. Ms. Fields, you want to give us some background on this right quick?
Actually, that would be Mr. Brown.
Yes, sir. And again, that is because we did not have a dollar amount of what we were expecting to expend in fiscal 21 at the time that the budget was done. So this would amend the budget to that 192. And if we have a successful applicant during the year that qualifies for a revolving loan, we would also have to amend the budget, excuse me, for that amount as well. So, but this is just to amend the budget to accommodate what you all have approved tonight, the $192,000.
Thank you, Mr. Brown. Any questions, Mayor Pro Tem?
No question.
Commissioner Fuller?
No questions.
Commissioner Fletcher? Commissioner Warrington?
Yep, Mr. Brown, what's the method of payback? So like, if we get a couple invoices from Cardno, when do we get reimbursed for that? Is it immediately or?
Well, they would have to be submitted. Those invoices would have to be submitted to the grantor. So once Paul and his staff will see those invoices, they approve those invoices for payment, and then we would submit those to the grantor for reimbursement.
Okay, so in essence, this is going to be a wash.
That is correct. We have to budget the expense, but we will also budget the revenue. So, but you're correct, it'd be an expense in the grant fund, but the revenue will also come through the grant fund. So it will be no cost to the city itself.
I'm looking for the ordinance. Does the ordinance state that?
The grant fund by nature, I don't know if the ordinance says that specifically, but the source of revenue is the grant funds that we're receiving. And so the expense would be there. There's no matching required by the city. I think that's probably included in the grant itself. I don't know if the ordinance says it, but I know the grant says that it doesn't require any city matching. So any expense for right now, the 192,000 will show up as a grant expense. And then the budget amendment will also reflect a $192,000 grant revenue, nothing from the city.
Okay, but we don't have to state that on the amendments, what you're saying?
No,
on the budget amendment.
No, sir, because it says the grant fund is where the budget amendment will take place. And so that specific revenue line will be through the grantor.
Okay, thank you. That's it.
Commissioner Langstaff?
No questions.
Commissioner Young?
No questions.
Okay, is there a, any commissioner want to offer the ordinance?
Second.
Okay. Under discussion, Mayor Pro Tem.
No discussion.
Commissioner Fuller?
No discussion.
Commissioner Fletcher? Commissioner Warburton?
No discussion.
Commissioner Langstaff?
No discussion.
Commissioner Young?
No discussion.
Ms. Hicks, could you call the roll, please?
Ward 1?
Yes.
Ward 2,
Yes.
Ward 3, Ward 4,
No.
Ward 5,
Yes.
Ward 6,
Yes.
Mayor.
Yes. Okay, that brings us to other business. Items for future agenda. Mayor Pro Tem.
No other business.
Commissioner Fuller.
Nothing at this time.
Commissioner Fletcher. Commissioner Warburton.
Yes, I had a question for the chief and maybe the city manager. So with our mask mandate for the ordinance is ineffective at the moment. How are we going to handle if it goes back up to 101 tomorrow and back to 98 the next day? We're going to be in a cycle of on and off. More than likely, statistically, that's what's going to happen. How does that play out for you guys?
We would still encourage people to wear a mask. 99 today can be 101 tomorrow, or however that works. But being